A gym owner ran 25 sales calls and he closed 0. He was using the same script, the same process, the same offer. Then he changed one thing and he went from closing 0 sales to closing 5 out of the next 9 calls. See, he didn't get better at selling. He stopped trying to sell. We've all been on that call. You said the right things, you followed the right script, and you've hit every talking point, and the buyer was nodding. They seemed interested, and then they said what? They said, let me think about it. And here's what happened. You assumed that you need a better script. You didn't. By the end of this, you'll know exactly why your conversations aren't converting and what to change starting tomorrow. No new techniques, no new scripts. So this is part 1 of a 10-part series that I'm making on sales. And if you stick through all the 10 videos, I can assure you that you're going to tremendously change sales in your business. So let's get started. Here's what most people do when they get on a sales call. The first thing is they start with small talk. And then immediately after that, they launch into their favorite part, which is the offer. Now, they make the offer, they talk about the features, the pricings, the credentials, the case studies. The buyer is nodding all along, and then they say, I'll get back to you. But you and I both know that they're never coming back. So here's what you do. You think that you need a better pitch, and perhaps you end up buying a course or you pick up a book and you learn a new framework. Maybe you learn a new closing technique. The next call, you get the exact same result. So what do? You buy another course, you buy another book, another system. Here's what's happening. Your bookshelf is growing, but your close rate is not growing. So people have this all backward. People think that those who spend the most amount of time studying sales are often the best at closing, but it doesn't work. You studied sales more, you perhaps even get worse at closing because you're all over in your head. Despite studying, things don't work because you've been working on the wrong thing entirely. See, I've seen this pattern play out hundreds of times in my own businesses, in the teams that I've managed, in the people that I've coached. See, there is a 7-step sales process. And most people, the mistake they make is they skip the first 4 steps and they jump to the 5th step, which is pricing. Now, the problem is when you directly jump to the pricing, eliminating the first 4 steps, everything falls apart. Because the first step is where you build a rapport with your audience. And once you build rapport with them, you need to qualify. Are they even the right audience for you? Then you need to go about building value. And then is the very important part, which is where you create desire. When you create desire, one very important thing happens. They ask you for the price. There's a very strong difference between you quoting the price versus them asking how they can work with you. But anyways, these 7 steps, I'll be taking you through them across the 10 series. But let's first talk about the 3 mistakes that kill sales conversations and the 2 fixes that change all of them. And you're going to see yourself in at least one of these, probably all the 3. But let's talk about the first one. The first mistake that you're making is where you start selling before you even listen to them. See, think about this. Someone shows interest and your brain instantly switches to the closing mode. So within 60 seconds of them showing interest, you start pitching, you show features, you talk about your price, you talk about your credentials. You haven't even asked a single question about their actual problem. Imagine if you went to a doctor and you walked into the clinic, and the minute you walked in, the doctor started prescribing medications. You'd be very weirded out and you'd perhaps walk out. But somehow, when you're selling, this feels absolutely normal. When someone shows interest, you start prescribing before even examining anything. Let's say you're an interior designer, a couple calls you to renovate their house. And within 2 minutes of the conversation, you pulled out your portfolio, you're showing them the last 3 projects, you're telling them a quoted price range, and the call is over. And they said, we will think about it. What you didn't ask is, what's frustrating about their current space? You didn't ask how they use each room. You didn't ask them, what else have they tried? You wrote a prescription before you even examined the problem. If you ask me, closing before diagnosing is criminal. Now, the second mistake is when your selling is not working, you start learning more. You start working on a better script, you start working on a better closing technique, better objection handling, you read another book, you take another course, you learn another system. Back to the gym owner, 0 out of 25, using the same script, same process, he changed one thing, not his technique, he changed his orientation. So he stopped selling his agenda and he started serving the buyer's agenda. This is how he went from 0 to closing 5 sales out of the next 9 calls he made. The script did not change, but he did. See, a black belt hasn't learned 4,000 moves. There's somebody who practiced the same 12 moves 4,000 times. The best salespeople don't use better techniques, they execute the same basics with more care. If you ask me, chasing the next tactic is a very beginner move. So, 2 down, and the third one is the one that nobody talks about, which is the wrong energy. You are bringing in a very wrong energy into your sales. Most people think that saying the right words makes the sales happen. It doesn't. Words are maybe 20% of the conversation, and the rest is energy. The rest is your intention. Where is your head at? See, the buyer can feel your agenda. And the moment you walk into a conversation thinking about your monthly revenue, thinking about your payouts and how badly you need this client, they can feel it. They can feel it through your tone, they can feel it through your timing, they can feel it through which questions you ask and which ones you skip. So this is why the same script that works for one person falls flat for another person. Same words, but different energy. If you ask me, I've been on both sides. And when you're on the receiving end, it's very obvious, but when you're doing it, you can't really tell. It's sort of like bad breath. You can't smell your own breath, but the person across from you always can. Does that make sense? Now, we spoke about the 3 mistakes. 1, pitching before listening. 2, chasing more techniques when the problem is your intention. 3 is where you walk in with the I need this deal energy that the buyer feels before you even finish your first sentence. So, same root cause, the conversation is about you and not them. So, let's talk about the first fix. The first fix is for you to stop selling. Stop selling? What do I do instead? You need to stop selling and you need to start coaching. Let me explain this. See, a coach doesn't try to close. A coach is an expert in diagnosing. Where does it hurt? What have you tried? What do you actually need? Not what you assume they need, but what they actually tell you in their own words. So stop selling and start coaching. See, when you genuinely care more about their outcome than your own numbers, the whole thing flips. So you stop pitching, and when you stop pitching, they stop resisting. They lean forward. They start telling you things that they haven't told the other 3 people they talked to because you were the first one who actually asked. So, same interior designer, instead of pulling up the portfolio, she opens with, tell me what's frustrating about the space right now. And 20 minutes of questions, how they use each room, what's working, what's not, what have they tried, and by the time she recommends anything, it's based on their situation. And if you ask me, her recommendation feels like a relief, not like a sales pitch. They don't say, we'll think about it. They say, when can we start? So, don't pitch, diagnose, and care louder than you close. Now, see, here's why this is so hard. Let's say, okay, I'm listening to Swastik and Swastik said, I need to diagnose the sale, and you tried for 2 calls and neither one closed, and your brain goes, see, just pitch them directly, at least you'll waste less time and maybe you'll do more numbers, that's much faster. See, sales is a number game. Not every diagnosis that you do converts, but here's what you're missing. Most people think that getting better at sales is a straight line. Learn more skills, close more deals, make more money. But here's the thing, it's not a line, it's a cycle, and it runs through 3 different levels. Level 1 is your skills. Level 1 is your skills, which means this is the tools that you use, the scripting, the follow-up sequence, the objection handling, and this is where everyone starts, and this is where most people get stuck forever. The second part, which is very important that people miss out on, is the traits, the discipline to actually do the work, the patience, the consistency, and showing up when it's very boring. Like I told you, you tried 2 times and nobody still bought, and you think that it's better to go back to the pricing directly. This is where your patience comes in. Not learning new moves, not skipping the basics, doing the same thing over and over again till it becomes a part of you. And the third part is your belief. What do you believe? What do you believe about your product? What do you believe about your market? What do you believe about your offer? What do you believe about what you're doing? Do you feel like you're serving? Do you feel like you're actually helping them? Or do you feel like you're trying to do something just to get some quick money? Because if your belief is not working out, then nothing else matters. So it's a cycle. It's the entire cycle that you need to work on. And most people get stuck in the loop one where they just keep upping their skills over and over again. They think that the next course will fix everything. But they've got a level 2 problem where they're not patient about what they're doing. And they have a level 3 problem where they fundamentally don't believe about the product that they sell. And when you don't believe about the product that you sell, remember I told you about the energy part? You'll never be able to show up with the kind of energy that's actually required to help somebody. Please remember this. Selling is service. Until and unless you can get yourself to believe that you're actually serving somebody, the odds of you becoming amazing at sales is very, very, very low. So it's not a skill problem, it's mostly a discipline problem and a belief problem. Quick question for you. Which of the 3 things that I told you are you the most guilty of? Are you stuck in level 1 just picking up more skills? Or is it that you lack the traits where you're not patient? Or is it that you don't believe in what you're selling? I want you to drop it in the comments. I read every single comment. And if this video is landing for you, hit the like button because it helps me reach more people find this. So let me show you what the whole thing looks like in practice. Let's say you're an online consultant and you're charging about 50,000 rupees a month. So discovery calls, you have a 25 slide deck where you're talking about your methodology, your credentials, your client results, your pricing, and you walk through the whole thing every call, and let's say you get about 8% close rate. Now, here's the thing. You think that, you know what, I need a better script that closes at 10 to 12%. Mistake number 1 is you talking for over 40 minutes. In a 45-minute sales call, you spoke for 40 minutes and then you let them speak for 5 minutes. That's the first mistake. And then you immediately launched into your slide deck before you asked a single question about their situation. Like I told you, mistake 1 is where you're talking more than you're listening. That's mistake number 1. Mistake 2 is your response to the 8% was thinking that you need a better script. So you picked up another book or another course and you tried the whole thing, but your close rate has not moved. Mistake 2 is trying new things. That's mistake 2. Mistake 3 is you're on the call thinking about your monthly target. So mistake 3 is where you are thinking about yourself. Please remember, selling is where you're doing something for the person sitting in front of you. So you are on these calls thinking about your monthly target and the buyer feels it. They're nodding politely, but they're mentally comparing you to the other 2 consultants they've just spoken to. So mistake 3 is where you're going with this thought that I need this deal. See, the buyer doesn't choose the most polished pitch. They choose the person who understands their problems, and you need to understand this. Every time you're on a call with the I need this energy is a buyer that you never get back. No second chances. You never get a second chance at a first impression. That's not delayed cost, it's permanent. So here's the fix for you. First is I want you to scrap your deck and I want you to start listening. So your listening has to go to 80%. And I want you to open every call with tell me what's going on with you right now and spend 80% listening to them, their situation, their frustrations, what have they tried and where do they want to be. Take notes and use their words. The next thing is when you recommend, connect every part of your offer to something that they said. Not this is what we do, but here's what you said and here's what we can do. So you use their words. And the next thing is before every call, I want you to perhaps write this one sentence on a sticky note. And it should say, my job is to figure out if I can help this person. Like I told you, selling is service. And your job is to figure out if you can actually serve this person or not. If you can't serve them, that's fine. But if you can serve them, you need to go all in. Your job is not to close the deal. Your job is to serve. And the next thing that I want you to do is I want you to review your last 10 sales calls. There, I want you to ask yourself, how many minutes did I do the talking versus how much time I spent listening? And if you spoke for more than 30%, mistake 1 is already running. If you practice this for the next 30 days, your close rates won't just improve, but the quality of your conversation will change drastically. Buyers will say things like, you're the first person who actually asked me that. And that's when you know that things have shifted. So here's one exact opening line that you could perhaps use word for word. Before I tell you anything about what we do, I want to understand your situation. Tell me what's going on with you right now and what made you book this call with me. Feel free to replace a few words according to your business, but this could be the exact lines you use. Because this one question replaces your entire 25 slide deck. Like I told you, gym owner went from 0 closings to 5 closings, same script, same product, same market. The only thing that changed was who the conversation was about. When it was about his numbers, he lost. When it was about their outcomes, that's when he won. So you don't need a better script, you need a better orientation. This is video 1 of the sales series, and if you want the next 9, hit the subscribe button. Next time you take a call, open with the one question. What's going on with you right now? And then you listen to them. Don't pitch until they've answered every single thing. That's the whole move. I'll see you in the next video. Let's go.